Hello everyone and welcome back to Agent Nagash, and it's a pleasure to be back here. So, as it's been quite a while since making videos obviously, however, like I mentioned in a few of my community posts done lately, that is because I have been putting all my work and effort into getting my own house, and now that is done, we will start seeing some more videos on the channel. And I thought I was going to wait until 4th edition came out and I was more sort of settled into my house, but because there is a new edition coming out, I thought it was kind of the best time to sort of start getting back on the video bandwagon, because we haven't played Age of Sigmar for quite a while now, or any Warhammer to be honest. It's great for me to get back into the hobby when there's a new edition, because sort of like everyone's like learning the new edition, which for me works out really well. So I thought, why not go over my thoughts on the latest Warhammer community articles they've been doing about 4th edition. And the idea behind this little mini series will be maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 videos or something, just breaking it down in parts, going over the Warhammer community articles, looking to see what the changes are and telling you what my thoughts are on them. Now, I'm sure I am very late to the party and a lot of people have already done this, but hey, I thought I'd just chuck out my thoughts out there as well. And then going into when 4th edition drops, we'll start seeing a lot more videos from me. I'm tempted to do, and what I actually want to do, is another sort of like army archive about all the armies in Age of Sigmar for 4th edition. And maybe that might just start out with looking at the indexes, because I know not every army is going to get a battle tome, etc. at the start. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But in the meantime, we can start with what reveals they're doing for 4th edition, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below the video. So we're going to start with the first one, which is Warhammer Age of Sigmar is reforged for an incredible new edition. The mortal realms are in turmoil. Sigmar's Dawnbringer crusades teeter on the precipice between survival and disaster, even as the forces of chaos, destruction and death grow in power. But you know who's been suspiciously absent from the titanic struggles that have come to dominate the 8 realms? It's the Skaven hordes. Yeah, this is very much like the Skaven are one of the most biggest threats in Warhammer Fantasy, or Age of Sigmar as it is now. However, they spend too much time fighting amongst themselves and backstabbing each other to actually be taken seriously and rise up. But it looks like things are changing. And just to say, we won't play the trailer because I'm sure you guys have seen it loads and I'm sure people have analysed it to death by now. So that's what they've been up to. A billion-strong tsunami of fur, teeth and malice is boiling through Ashgree and beyond as a scheme centuries in the making comes to fruition. And it brings with it an all-new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. That's right, the most exciting fantasy tabletop wargame in the world has been rewritten from the ground up, building on a decade of rich storytelling and bringing with it legions of new miniatures and new rules, an entirely new game mode, and a harrowing new chapter in the existential battle for the mortal realm. So yes, loads of new models coming, a lot of old models going, which I'm sure we'll get to later. But you know, the old's got to give way to the new, but we'll go into that later as it is a bit sad. So the story so far: hope cast into ruin. After a long period seemingly at the periphery of the action, the Skaven have returned with a radicalism bang. The realms have gotten too used to the world where verminkin keep to the shadows, and the consequences are dire. All that skulking around was time spent plotting the greatest scheme of all, the Vermin Doom, which I'm pretty sure is just like the Vermin Tide, but different name. Blossoming much of the foetid sub-realm of Blight City directly into the realm of fire, and opening up a festering rent in reality across the rest of the mortal realms. At the same time, the Great Horned Rat has struck a deal with Archaon himself and ascended to his rightful place as a full 5th member of the Chaos Pantheon, somewhat to the chagrin and erstwhile 4. So that's really quite cool. So that shows that the Great Horned Rat is actually like, it's just said a 5th edition. I didn't know Archaon himself had the power to do that, but you know, obviously they live in a dictatorship there, so fair enough. But no, it is pretty cool because it means that if he is a full, 5th fledged member, but I think I remember hearing that before. Maybe he wasn't quite there yet. Then you've got, you know, rat demons, etc. But you already have the vermin lords to do that. But maybe you will get like miniature like rat demons, but I doubt we'll see that. But we could do, which would be pretty cool. So then going on to the next bit. In the face of such calamity, the Stormcast Eternals of the Hallowed Knights Chamber stand at the foremost bulwark against an ever-expanding tide of rodents. But the horrors they face in combating a continent-sized outbreak of Skaven are so overwhelming that they have been forced to call upon the Ruination Chamber. These are the most gristled veterans of the Stormcast, heroes of 1,000 battles dating back to the Soul Wars and before. Brave men and women who have died over and over again in the service of the Godkin. The innumerable Reforgians have taken a heavy toll. These heroes have been sequestered in monasteries for years now, clinging to the last vestiges of their humanity. So this is basically what happens, it was been alluded to before, that every time a Stormcast, when they die, although they're immortal, they lose a piece of themselves or a piece of what their humanity is. So these ones who have been around for a very long time, which I imagine it's been, it has been like hundreds of years since the start. Imagine how many times they've died and how much left of them is human and not just a weapon anymore. So I'm pretty cool. It'd be cool to see that. They say all this about, they are the gristled veterans, that, there's not much humanity left of them. It'd be interesting to see if their models are very much look exactly the same as the rest of the new Stormcast and don't really echo any of that lack of humanity in them. So it sounds cool, but I don't think we'll see much of it in their design, just because they're going to want you to include these in all your Stormcast armies. And it would maybe be like how you paint them shows, I don't know how, dark inside they are or whatever. But, it's still quite cool to see it in the story. So hopefully it will transpire to in the game. So now they have been called upon once more, the only forces hardy enough to enter a war zone blighted by corrupting forces of the Warpstone. For these mighty warriors, this may be the final time they step into battle, at least as themselves. So then that's basically a catch-up of all the narrative for us, which is a nice little summary for us. And then going on to the game, because obviously, as much as we like the story, the game is the thing that kind of drives a new edition, I would almost definitely say. So, the game. This is a huge shift in narrative, accompanied by changes to the game. The rules for Warhammer Age of Sigmar have gradually introduced a new layer of complexity over the past 9 years. Wow, it's been 9 years, that has flown. Always building on a robust framework, but perhaps not able to take stock and reassess the experiences as a whole. So for this edition, the team wanted to make sure they got everything right. Okay, that's big, bold words, but we'll see what happens. So the core rules have been reforged for the first time since the first edition of the game, released way back in 2015. The focus has been on streamlining accessibility and modularity, but not at the expense of depth, to ensure that the epic fantasy battles of your imagination can be recreated on the tabletop. So if that does work out, that is really quite cool, because that essentially what they're trying to say is it's a game that is easy to learn and it's got a high sort of skill ceiling, so easy to learn, hard to master, which I think Age of Sigmar kind of was anyway. So yeah, it'd be cool to see how they expand on that. And then it says this new edition is absolutely still the Warhammer Age of Sigmar that you all know and love, with all the friction taken out of it. Cleanly and smartly, it has the tactical and strategic nuance of the previous editions, driven by a real desire for the background to show through the tabletop. On top of all of that, there are modular rules, plenty more opportunities for reactivity in your opponent's turn via an updated system of command points and abilities, and a ton of tweaks and refinements. Not at least to double the turn, which has been fine-tuned into a knife-edge decision with a clever twist to scoring. Put simply, it is the best edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar yet. So I'm glad to see that the priority role is still there, because I think that's a very defining point of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. And I know some people don't like it and some people do like it. I personally do like it, because I just think it adds that extra sort of decision you have to make when it comes to the game. It's not just whoever goes first. It's like, well, they're going first, and then I go second, and they go first. And it's not just back and forth. It can, like, obviously put you in a really bad situation when you go, like, you know, you feel like you're out on your luck anyway, and then your opponent double turns you, and it is like a bit of a feel bad. But there are times where you're sort of like really struggling in the game, and then you get the double turn, and then that makes all the difference and puts you back in the game, etc. So overall, I do like it, and it does make for very interesting games. So what does this mean for my army? Rebuilding the core rules means that quite a lot has changed, and every faction in the new edition has had its entire set of war scrolls and army rules updated and reworked. So where I haven't read through these articles yet, I had heard of this anyway, because I heard that Nagash's war scroll was now out, and that's one of the reasons that made me want to do this little mini series, because obviously if Nagash's got a new war scroll in a new edition, I have to cover that. So yes, pretty excited to go over and look at that, because from what I've seen, the new war scrolls are sort of like a nice condensed version. So we'll get to that later, I'm sure, because I don't think it's in this particular article. As a result, each faction in the new edition will receive 3 downloadable faction packs at launch. Each pack will contain all the rules needed to play, battle traits, sub-factions, enhancements, spell laws, and war scrolls for every unit. This also means that the battle tomes from the current edition will not be compatible with the new rules, and that every faction will receive a new battle tome over the next few years. So this is something that is, I can see why they do it. It's a bit of a feel bad, because it's along the reason of, like, I remember that Flesh Eater Court box that came out, I think it was towards the end of last year, maybe autumn fall time, and I literally just got it the other day because I saw it for a very good deal, and I sort of like got the battle tome, like, I'm going to look forward to looking through this and playing through this, and I don't think I will ever have a game with that battle tome that came out, like 6 months ago or something like that, unfortunately, because they're getting the rhythm all, and that's one thing which I'm sure you've heard from other people. But yeah, if you go into a Games Workshop or anything, don't buy any battle tomes they've got, because they will all just be thrown in the bin in not too long. And I don't do that. I keep them because I like the artwork and the lore, etc. But like, they don't really have any other value apart from that. So don't waste, I don't know, £30, whatever they charge them these days. So we'll have more details on what the new war scrolls look like and what you can expect from every faction in the coming months. But it's nice to see that it's not just a case of, here's some really basic rules for every army coming out apart from Stormcast and Skaven, because I imagine they will get battle tomes because they're the launch armies. It sounds like you're going to get more in-depth rules than that, and it's all free downloadable, which kind of makes it not too bitter about chucking all your battle tomes away, because you will get those rules for free. If they started like charge them for, I think, was it like, if I compare it to, I can't remember what edition it was, but there was that 40k edition where there was indexes. Was it 8th edition maybe? I can't really remember. I think it was. And they basically had like an index for the Imperium, an index for Xenos and Chaos, and it's like you had to buy these books for, I think they're only like £15 or something, but it's still like, you knew they weren't going to last forever, and it was a bit of a stopgap, where these ones, they're just free online. And if you've got online, you've got it on your phone, etc. So it's easy, accessible to get to, and you're not sort of like chucking something away at the end of it, because it's all just digital. So going on to the next bit, it says Spearhead, a new way to play. As well as updates to Match Play and Path to Glory, the new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar is accompanied by Spearhead, a fresh game mode that plays in an hour or less, wow, okay, using the contents of each faction's Spearhead and Vanguard boxes. Okay, so this is the whole idea behind the Spearhead idea. Yeah, cool, if that works. If you can have a game in less than an hour. Let's see what else they're going to say about it. So Spearhead is a fun and exquisitely balanced version of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and a brilliant way to introduce the game to beginners But it's not just for new players who want to, sorry, it's not just for players that are new that want to play this mode. It really takes advantages of the new modular core rules that introduce unique tactical spins and design studios. Absolutely love it, and become one of the most popular games to play in lunch hours and after work around the office. Despite its small scale, Spearhead is a deep and robust game system with enough depth and twists to provide endless replayability. We'll definitely have more to say on this system in the near future. Okay, so I like the idea of, you want to get into the game, your buddy wants to get into a game, you both pick up one of these Spearhead boxes, let's go, which I think is really quite nice, because I know when there's things like when you're new to the game and it's, let's do like a 500 point game or something like that, to sort of like, you both build on your armies, but some 500 points in some armies are a lot more powerful than 500 points in other armies. So these Spearheads, if they make them balance, is good, because then it hopefully is more balanced than the sort of 500 points versus 500 points thing. But what I will say with that is that, take it with caution, because they do, at the end of the day, I imagine, sell these Spearheads that were, arcing back to the start collecting box days, that the Spearheads are there on a shelf to sell. They usually have, an infantry, a hero, and then an elite unit or a cool looking unit, which might turn out to be a fair balance against other boxes, but they are also just there to look pretty on a box to sell it. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. I want it to work out. I think that's a lovely idea, especially like if I play a game of Warhammer, it at least takes 3 hours. That's probably because I'm talking for half it. But if I could play a game that takes an hour to 2 hours or an hour and a half, or maybe like they say an hour, it means that you could play that sort of like midweek games, etc., and you could still get that game fix in without having to take up a whole evening. So I'm interested to see what happens. I want to see it work. Just be interested to see what happens. So what's next? So this summer will be an exciting time to be a Warhammer Age of Sigmar fan, and there's ample opportunity for new players to discover this incredible universe and game. Tune in to over coming months to learn more, etc. I won't read that because we're just going to go straight in to the next one. And this article, by the looks of it, is literally just a video. So we've already learned about this stuff. It's just repeating it, I imagine, the start of every article. So let's see what they have to say about learn the big changes of the new edition.
what lies ahead for the Mortal Realms, and we've got loads more to show you. Make sure to keep your eyes on the Warhammer Community website for all the latest Warhammer Age of Sigmar news.
So that's pretty interesting, I have to say. One thing I did notice with that is that they said there was going to be a pack for the Stormcast. So when I earlier said, well, I presume the Stormcast and the Skaven will get Battle Tomes themselves off the right out of the gate at the start of the new edition, maybe they won't. So everyone will be in the same position, which I think is probably a better thing because it just limits the haves and have-nots. It's good to see that there's more reactions you can do in your opponent's turn, just because I know that's more to sort of learn, but it's definitely worth it because there's been times where I played Age of Sigmar in the past, and if it's your opponent's turn and they've got a lot to do, or perhaps they've double turned you, you could be waiting there for about 30 minutes and not really be able to do anything. Now, in 3rd edition, there was things you could react to, so it wasn't nearly as bad. I'm maybe talking about things from before that, but it's nice if they limit that even more, and you don't just get steamrolled by your opponent, essentially. So, yeah, big fan of that, and excited to see what more they have to come in the new edition, because they're alluding to a lot of things that we haven't gone over yet, or at least I haven't gone over yet in this video. So we'll get to those things as we get to the articles. But it says we'll soon have a lot more to say on everything mentioned in the video, literally like I just said, and much more besides. Suffice to say, for the time being, that the new War Scrolls are smart without sacrificing nuance, and a double turn is now a much tougher choice, and the turn structure is so much more reactive. You'll be hoarding precious command points to respond at the most crucial moment. So I also like that as well, so it makes you have to think more about spending your command points where you already had to, but there was definitely some command abilities that were just like, yeah, auto, I'm just going to save my command points for that. But it's nice that maybe this was going to have to make you think a bit more. And because all the War Scrolls are changing, command abilities that you used to love may no longer be a thing. And especially it's a new edition, the universal command abilities might not be a thing. So that is... there's a little bit at the end. So it says, watch this space. Okay, more information, blah, blah, blah. Let's just go straight into the next article, which is Warhammer Age of Sigmar, new edition, everything you need to know on that. Is that the first one we did? Because that sounds very similar. Nope, they've just got very similar titles, so I've got to try and bear that in mind when I'm reading through these. So it says, hope has been cast into ruin. Sigmar's plan to retake the mortal realms lie in tatters as the Skaven's secret plan to enact the Vermin Doom comes to a horrifying fruition. But that doesn't mean the fight is over. The Ruination Chamber has been opened, and the Stormcast Eternal veterans of 1,000 battles sally forth to defend the God King's hard-worn domain. Now, I'm not going to play the cinematic trailer just because, like I said, it's been seen so many times before. It says there's a new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar on its way, and over the coming months, we'll be examining every aspect and extracting detail. All the new content will be posted here, including miniature reveals, rule preview, faction focuses, and background information and more. Check back every day for the latest updates. Is that literally Hopecast Interim announced a new edition? What's here? No, that was a point. Unless I'm missing something here, or there was something really crucial in that video. Pointless video. That's a pointless article, sorry. Right, okay, so let's go on to the next one. What does the new AOS mean for your old battle tomes? It means throw them in the bin. Just throw them away. Although keep them for artwork and lore, obviously. Something that's quite nice you can do with it, if you've got like a little bit of a hobby room or a hobby space, you could like, because all the pages obviously A4, you can cut the pages out carefully with a knife and then stick them in like a A4 frame, and then you've got a nice bit of artwork on the wall. That's something that I tend to do. But it says, after nearly 10 years in service, the rules for Warhammer Age of Sigmar are receiving their first ground-up rewrite. Which is interesting, because the new editions have changed things a lot, so there must be huge changes with the new edition this time round, so let's see. And as well, start to see the deep dives on Warhammer Community beginning tomorrow. This is a cause for celebration. It doesn't mean that the rules are changing just for the sake of it. Kind of is, because you just want to sell a new edition and make more money. In fact, the framework remains much the same, and the majority of the changes are smart refinements that will improve the all-round up experience. Right, it says you're doing a first ground-up rewrite of the rules, and then now you're just saying that the framework's going to stay the same, and actually you're just making refinements. So don't get me wrong, I love the rules of Age of Sigmar. That's why I play the game. That's why I love it. I don't want you to change everything about it, but I'm just saying you've contradicted yourself very quickly there within a couple of sentences. Anyway, enough of that. Lovely Servon. I love those models. Can't wait to build and paint my ones that I've had for a long time now, sitting in a box. Every single war scroll is changing. The team took the opportunity at the outset to measure up each profile in every faction to see whether their basic stat line felt right. How does a grot stack up against a mortal human, for instance, or a Saurus against an Orc, as you can see in the picture? Over the course of the process, War Scroll design has changed, as has the kind of information that goes on it. Some characteristics have been renamed for clarity. For instance, wounds has become health, while miniatures can now fight in melee if they are within 3 inches of combat range of opponents, speeding up parlins and combat resolutions, and you can now contest an objective with a model within 3 inches of a 40mm objective marker. Okay, so quite a lot to unpack there. First things first, replacing the word wound for health. Absolutely agree with that. I feel like it's different to what I'm used to. So I like to say, you know, how many wounds has your guy got? He's got 16, etc. It's just nice and easy and flows off the tongue for me. But there has been times when I've been teaching new people, and it's like, right, okay, now you roll to wound, and now you've done these wounds to me, which means I've taken this amount of wounds in damage. And it's like, just say health, just make it 2 different things, because it just makes it a bit more easier for new people to understand and not get confused. I think, and even like for me when I've been playing, it can be a bit of a mix up. So yeah, so like that. And then you've got fight in melee if you're within 3 inches. I think that's good, because although I do like the whole, you know, you're sitting down and you're looking at how you want to build your models, and you go, oh, if I give them spears, I don't know, they've got that extra range, that extra 1 inch range, but they're an extra, like, it basically does a -1 to their hit roll and all that sort of thing, compared to if they had swords. So it makes you have to be a bit more tactical in how you build them. However, I think overall this is better, because as much as I said, like, it makes you have to be a bit more tactical, sometimes you're sat there for about 10 minutes, umming and ahhing before you've even built a model, because you're trying to think which is the best. And where these models, obviously, you know, being Warhammer, it is pretty expensive. You don't want to build a unit and then have instant regret because you gave them, like, the wrong weapons for the range, you know, trade-off and stuff. So I think overall, simplify that is a good thing. And then, like I said, it speeds up pilings and stuff, which I think absolutely does make things a bit quicker, because you're not having to, obviously you still have to measure 3 inches, but you're not having to measure, you know, what is within 2 inches and stuff, and the whole sort of, like, you know, 1 rank of your warriors can fight, or 2 ranks of them can fight. You can just easily see from an eye, from a distance, how much you'll be able to fight, and if you can measure 3 inches if you need to. So yeah, big fan of that. And the objectives are getting a lot smaller, which is interesting, be cool to see. I think that will look nicer on a board, because where I play, I've got those, like, objective rings that are very, very useful, and they tell you, you sort of, like, put them on the board, and it covers a large circle and area, and you can see easily who's in an objective range and who isn't, which makes things very easy to see, like I say. But it does kind of take away from the immersion of the game, of, you know, these huge, like, plastic circles just scattered across the board, taking up half the board space sometimes. So small objectives, I think, are good. Be interesting to see how that plays, though, I think, before I give my full sort of verdict on that. It then says universal special rules are in, and these are a manageable amount, making them easy to recall. Battle Shock has been removed. Wow, that's really big, especially if they've got Nighthorn underneath that, because they really played on Battle Shock. And there are meaningful command abilities in every round with clear and simple sequencing, but if you want to use them, you'll have to deal with a strict command point economy. Okay, so it'd be really interesting to see how these command points work. I'm sure they've done it in one of the articles. But yes, so that'll be interesting to see. No battle shock, so that is weird because there always used to be like a battle shock bomb and all that sort of thing. And I don't really think battle shock was like a feel bad moment. Yeah, it was annoying sometimes, you know, if battle shock blew up in your face, but it was kind of, you had to think ahead so your guys didn't get slain in the battle shock phase. With that, so a lot of the time people neglected battle shock in terms of, oh, just a spine presence, that's fine, just a spine presence, that's, you know, it's not a problem. But when they couldn't inspire presence, it really blew up in their face, and it was like one of those things that you had to kind of think ahead for. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see why they've replaced it. Hopefully it's not because of the simple math you had to do in the battle shock phase, which we all struggled with, but it's partly good to keep up your maths on that one. So yeah, be interesting to see what they do with it. And then it says, everything you can do in the game is now an ability, from moving, fighting, shooting, casting spells, to the unique actions found on your war scrolls. These abilities have clear sequencing, a declare step, and an effect step. And their timing is written out, color-coded, and uses symbols, making it incredibly easy to understand at a glance which phrase you can perform each action and what it does. Yeah, that's good. Really, rather than going, oh, what action happens first, or in what order this is work, like it says, it just really nicely lays out for you. And although if you really knew your army, you knew how it worked anyway. When you're learning the army, though, it's just really nice to see it, like it says, color-coded, so you can really easily see what happens in what order. And even if you really do know your army, your opponent might want to know the rules of your army, so they can think about, the tactical decisions they have to make. So if they can refer to your rules for your army quickly with a nice color-coded system, etc., to really clearly state when a rule or when an effect happens, that would just be brilliant. And I think that's a really good and smart way to write war scrolls. Because the other thing with war scrolls as well is it's one of those where obviously the main idea of a war scroll has changed slightly, but like the main layout has always been the same since the start. And obviously lots of things have changed in Age of Sigmar, and especially with so many more armies added. When it said how does like a grot match up to a human, etc. I think it's important because there's always a power creep in games. Like, they release a new army, they want it to be powerful and all that sort of thing. And if your army's stuck in the past, don't worry, because it will get an update soon and it'll be more powerful. But then it's kind of just like a cat and mouse game with that sort of like catching up with the power level. So everything starts fresh. I think that's good. So going on to the next bit, it says the modular nature of the new rule set is something we'll explain more about in due course, but essentially the core rules are supported by a series of more advanced plug and play additions. It's perfectly possible and quite satisfying to play without magic, for instance, while at higher levels new battle packs and general's handbooks can slot in the same way. Okay, so that's quite interesting to see. So it's like, the base game is like this, and then you can slot in all these additional things rather easily and pick and choose what you want. But I don't really, if I'm honest, fully understand it until I've got those battle packs and I'm playing the game and I see how it works. I think basically it's saying that you can make the game as simple as you want or as complicated as you want. But at the end of the day, whatever rules are used for tournaments are the ones that you're probably going to be playing all the time, because you might not have any plans to go to a tournament, but usually the game works as the match play rules. Like, yes, sure, you can play Age of Sigmar completely narratively in open play, which is great fun, but unless I'm just talking for myself here, you don't often do that, or if you do, it's like a cool one-off fun battle. It's not like your standard way to play, especially the more and more you play the game. So they're saying there's all these different options, but it'll be interesting to see if, how many of the different options you actually use in your day-to-day games. But I think it could be cool, because I think it'd be interesting if different tournaments use different battle packs, etc. with the game to sort of like make each tournament different. Now, I haven't been to a tournament for quite a long time, and I haven't been to regular tournaments for a long, long time, so I'm quite sort of like talking back to quite a long time ago. But it'd be interesting to see if all different tournaments are different, etc. But or they're all just going to be the same. You know, it'll be interesting to see how the community takes it, really, I suppose. It says, however, with changes this fundamental to the core building blocks of the game, it does mean that previous rules and rule books have been superseded. Every current battle tome will be retired when the new edition drops, but every faction will receive a free downloadable faction pack on or shortly after release. So it'll be interesting to see what these battle packs mean, and the faction packs as well. Like, I hope I'm wrong in just thinking it's just a way for them to sell you your battle tomes again. I know these aren't your battle tomes and you'll get it free downloadable, but the battle tomes will come out probably within 2 years, etc. So hopefully it's not just a cash grab, and it have actually got really good, like, the rules are written really well, so you're like, it's worth chucking my battle tome away to start fresh with this, because it's a really good building block towards a great addition and a new step forward for the game. It says these indexes provide a competitive, satisfying experience right from the outset. You'll be able to buy physical faction packs from the outset, which contain your army rules, sub-faction rules, enhancements, including spell laws, and all your War Scroll cards for both Spearhead and regular Warhammer Age of Sigmar. And of course, these indexes will be replaced by new look battle tomes for every faction as the edition matures. So yeah, I think it'll be really quite good if, I don't know, this is just like a little thing, but when the the faction packs come out, obviously they'll just probably something like this, you know, like, I don't know, that'll be the one looking for order, that'll be the one looking for chaos, that'll be the one for destruction, and that'll be for death. I'm not saying that will be it, because they've all got, you know, the names. These are all just the pitch of the battle tomes essentially from before. But I hope they do come up with new artwork for the battle tomes, because it is annoying when you chuck your old battle tome away to get the new battle tome for your army, and it's literally the same bloody bit of artwork on the front of it, which is just like, you know, at least if you make me have to buy this book game for like 30 odd quid, make it so I feel like I'm getting something new. But what I would say as well is be interesting to see how many people buy the physical copies, because I personally will not recommend buying the physical copies for the indexes when they come out, because they will get replaced soon, or essentially as soon as your army gets a battle tome, which may take, I don't know, 2 years or something, but it might be a lot sooner. And you know, again, that's just another book you're gonna have to throw away. Again, if you love reading things like in a book and you hate digital stuff, absolutely do what you want, but I'm just saying, I don't think that's a purchase that will last for a long time on that. So it says, our investigations on the nuance of the new rules begins tomorrow when we look at the modularity actual means in the context of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Okay, so it's just the other articles to go through. And I think, to be honest, that'll be enough for this video, because I don't know how long I've been talking for, but it might be, I don't know, close to an hour or something, and I think we've only been through like 4 or 3 articles. But again, this is just a new way for me to, just a way for me to start making new videos for the channel again. And I think, you know, what better time to do it with a new edition around the corner, and I can get back into gaming and everything while learning it with everybody else, and basically jumping into a new edition and reading up about the new edition and making myself excited about it, and hopefully making you guys excited about it. So if you enjoyed the video, as always guys, like the video. If you want to see more, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, because I know I often say this, you know, comment down below and all that sort of stuff, but honestly with this stuff, it's just like loads of new stuff coming that we don't completely know and understand. Now, I know there are essentially a bunch of articles that I've got here that I haven't read through, but I will do in videos to come soon, just because otherwise this video is going to be very, very long, and I think it'd be better if it's just broken up into different parts, essentially. So let me know what you think about the rules we read through so far. Are you excited for the new edition? Are you not excited? I understand that a lot of people are upset because obviously their armies are going to be invalid for the new edition at some point in the future. Was it summer 2025 or something like that? So you only get your armies for like another just over a year, which it is sad. because I know that's obviously a big part of what people are talking about in the new edition. I do wish that that wasn't the case and you could play your armies in the new edition, especially for the Stormcast players. There are Beast of Chaos players, and there are Bone Splitters, I think, and then there were some odd models here and there, and some Slaves of Darkness models. Like, I can't compare myself to someone who's got a huge Bone Splitter army, for example, whose army is now going to be invalid. But I can say, like, where I've got a lot of the Warcry warbands, I can't use them in my Slaves of Darkness army in the future, which, kind of sucks. But for all those people who have lost your armies, what I would say is nobody who you play against hopefully would give a damn if you just proxy them as something else. I know that's not really, the answer you want, but it's, don't feel bad if you go, basically this is your Stormcast Sacrosanct, Sacrosanct, whatever the word was. It's been so long since I said it. Or your basically your original big chunky boy Stormcasts. If you want to use them as the newer slimmed down Stormcast, which they're going to be adding in, as they are just basically remaking those models, no one should really have a problem with you just proxying them, because everybody will understand how much, essentially it sucked for you that those armies and those models got taken away from the game. And if anyone does have a problem with it, just don't play against them. That's the only advice I can give. But yeah, so that is the biggest negative, and that hasn't even came out in the articles we've covered yet. There's probably in a couple more articles to come or something. But obviously that's a very big point to mention. And yeah, there's no other way saying about, it sucks. And when, Games Workshop go, we have to make a way for new models. And it made me laugh when they said about the Stormcast stuff. We've actually made a huge range for the army Stormcast. Who would have thought? It's like we literally told you for ages, make any models that aren't Stormcast, because we're all fed up with them, and there's some armies that really needed new models, but obviously they did what they wanted to do, and now they're retiring them. And to be honest, I quite like the chunky Stormcast. At some points, actually, they're nicer than the newer slimmed down ones. So it's just personal taste. I take it, but it is what it is. But don't be afraid to use your old models as proxies, etc. in the game. Most people will allow you to do that and won't have any problems with it, of anything. They'll, just feel sorry that your army got kicked out of the game, which, everybody understands, and everybody, sort of like feels the pain for you on that one. And then we'll cover that when we get to an article about it, but I know people will be talking about it. But on the other side, we are going to see some really cool Skaven models, etc. And I'm not saying, they had to get rid of the other models so we could have the cool Skaven models and all that stuff. They could have done both, but at least we're going to get some new cool models out of it. But anyway, we'll talk about that when the article comes up. Of course, I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I hope you're excited to see more videos from me. And like I said, my plan is these videos you'll see will just be covering these articles, and then eventually you'll see me making more traditional sort of videos. And what I would like to do is make videos like the Army Archive I did, where I did a full in-depth no stone unturned army review for every army that had, like, I don't know, sometimes up to like 10 parts of it or something. Would be really cool to see. And yeah, we'll just see how things work out. But that is my my plan, and hopefully at some point in the future have battle reports and the new edition and stuff. So stay tuned. I hope you enjoy the video. I hope you guys are keeping well, excited for the new edition, and I look forward to seeing you in the comments and seeing you in the next video. And remember, until next time, that Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.